This is Flarts.
Oh, hey.
The dog is
It was a
Flarts,
human. Nate's wife was talking to us. I thought that was the dog. I was like, the dog is making human noises right now. I was
like,
freaked out. There's also a
Don't
dog
call
here,
me
which you
Bry
can't see.
Flarts.
Yes.
He's like, how did you find out my secret name?
It was the perfect moment for neurodivergency, and he felt he could chime in.
We should probably just call it Tangents.
That
Tangents
is not a
the
bad
podcast.
idea. Tangents.
It would be
Tangents.
really good if it wasn't the name of the podcast where I heard Hank Green say show flow.
Hey, man, listen.
That would be size show
We are
tangents.
not competing with
I
Hank
like
Green.
it.
We should have Hank Green
How
on the
about
podcast.
Tangy?
Let's invite him on.
Actually, that
Hank
would
Green,
be
if you
awesome.
see this,
Hank,
we want
Tangy?
you.
Bro.
We actually love you a
gotta-
lot. We love you a lot, Hank.
And please
A
come
lot.
tell me about the picture I sent you with me dressed as a pirate riding a tardigrade.
What?
I
I'll
mean,
tell you about
I've
it.
never seen
I'll
this,
tell you about it
man.
later.
What the heck?
I'm on a tardigrade like this.
We're
with
all,
my pirate
we're all full of
costume.
surprises, I
That's
guess.
impressive.
Nate, have you ever ridden a water
I
bear?
don't think I've ever ridden a water bear.
A moss piglet.
I mean,
They
I
call
can't
that.
say that I haven't because they're pretty small.
That's true. You might
Yeah,
have. And
you're
didn't
right.
even
You know what? Everybody has.
I would guess.
have-
Every
Oh.
single person has probably ridden a tardigrade.
And it was the last thing the tardigrade ever did.
Unless
it was just
some of them.
it was just in
Yeah.
passing.
I guess though, tardigrades, like if it was already
have a-
desiccated, then
Sure. You can't
Well,
even
you
kill
could
that
ride
thing.
that thing.
And
to
let's
the
be honest, I think I
horizon,
could
you know?
step on one and it wouldn't
No.
notice. Right?
Like honestly,
We need you to come on the show and
Teach
tell
us.
us
Talk us about
if we step on a tardigrade,
will it die?
is it okay?
'Cause I-
Or can we ride a tardigrade?
what would it take to ride
To ride a tardigrade. Also,
We know how you feel about tardigrades.
Cosmo Sheldrake is one of my favorite musical artists, and I think it's because his music is very neurodivergent coded. I don't know if he is neurodivergent, but it feels that way. He has a tardigrade song.
Oh,
It's pretty great.
okay.
So Cosmo, if you want
Cosmo
to, he's
is also a
Merlin's
person.
brother.
I was gonna say, is he related to Merlin Sheldrake?
Yeah, Merlin Sheldrake wrote a book about. He's a mycologist. He wrote a book about just mushroom mycology and stuff. And
Cosmo and Merlin
yeah.
Yep.
are brothers.
They're brothers. Yeah, one's a musical artist. One is a mycologist, and like my favorite mycologist. We love.
I feel like
mycology.
we need a
We're gonna talk a
collaboration
lot
between
about
the
mushrooms.
Yeah, actually,
Right?
they did do a collaboration because Merlin wrote a book called Entangled Life, and then Cosmo made a song, Entangled Life, about the book. It's pretty cool.
Cool.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Okay, I like this.
Yeah. Their dad is Rupert Sheldrake. He was a prominent guy in just kind of agriculture and different stuff. But anyway,
Okay.
that's a tangent for not this podcast.
But we digress.
Yep.
Or-
I think I'd love to hear
I think
about
we're just gressing. We just gress.
Yeah.
But
we
we
just-
gress.
It's not die
Gress.
pro. It's just gressing. That's the whole
that should be the name of the podcast.
gress.
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 Three guys gressing.
Polygressing.
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 Tardigressing.
Tardigressing. That's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah.
Or just
That's pretty
tardigress.
good. Tardigress.
That we just made a new word.
Think about it.
Tardigressing.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
don't even know what it means.
Sounds like it means
feels
a tangent,
like-
basically.
Yes.
It's like the Michelin man moving forward.
Yeah.
Tardigressing.
Weird. Of course, my brain knew that a tardigrade looks like the Michelin Man.
Yeah, but I never thought about it until
But I
this
never
moment.
knew I knew until you
Also,
said
the
that.
claws kind of freak me out. If the Michelin Man has
He's
secret
just like-
claws,
he's like,
like a tardigrade, like kind of Wolverine, and you're just like, you're creepy. Which, here's the deal: if you've never seen the very, very first costumes of the Michelin Man, way back in the 20s or whatever, when they freaky,
Yeah.
freaky looking thing, kind of
Yeah.
cool, but freaky.
Almost
something we
as
could
bad
put-
as early Ronald McDonald.
Oh yeah, like, we could put them both up.
I was like,
Yeah,
can we
for
put them in
sure.
like notes?
Easy.
Those
And we
would
could
be-
even just put it up
we'll
on
put
screen.
those
Yeah.
on
It'll be
screen here or in show
here.
notes if you're just listening.
And here.
I hear people can do that with podcasts. I hear Sam Schultz say that all the time. Something about it's in the show notes. So we'll have it in the show notes.
Show notes. It feels like maybe just the YouTube
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
the
description.
stuff. Yeah, or like there's links on.
We can cover my face.
Yeah, we'll
the
put it
whole
right
time.
here.
Yeah.
What if we just blurred Nate's face out as like
Oh,
a
yeah.
Or if
never
we just,
explain it?
We could just mask it with the Ronald McDonald, and it just follows him around.
Hello.
And then I'm the Michelin Man, and you're
A tardigrade.
Hank Green.
Hi, I'm Hank Green.
I like this. This works well.
Great.
Yeah. And this is our last podcast.
Yeah, so first and last, and
turns
Hope you
out.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We're gonna be eaten by tardigrades tonight.
yes,
That is
but we tardigress.
probably happening. Tardigress.
Okay, that's happening. We're saying that.
We're tardigressing.
We're using it. Sounds like a type of salad dressing to me.
Another tardigrade that we could take, because we talked about being more human, right? And that gets back exactly to
Yeah, that's
my
good.
40 archetypes of comedy.
Yes.
So 40 archetypes of comedy. I'm going to say that so that you can be properly bored and then be excited about what's about to happen. So let me start with a story. So we've all been involved with a performing arts camp.
Yeah.
That happens. It's been happening every year for 18 years, something like that. So this last summer, I discovered these archetypes, and so I took them to one of my classes. And we were telling short stories through acting. And the first time I had them go through, I was like, okay, you take this time, you're going to present this to us.
Yeah.
It's just a scene, right? So they'd come and do the scene, and they were good scenes. These campers are pretty good. The second time, I gave them 3 archetypes that they could work with, and then had them do the scene again. And the most interesting thing, so they'd do the scene again, and then we'd have everybody give feedback.
Okay.
And what they said was by using these archetypes over and over again, they felt like the people in the scene were more connected.
Okay.
And they felt like the concepts that these people were presenting were more real. And it was
So just to clarify, sorry, you're talking about, because this was a conversation we were having kind of off camera before it started. You're talking about how many archetypes?
40.
40 archetypes specifically of comedy.
Yes.
And if you don't know what an archetype is, I don't know if the word was coined by Joseph Campbell or if it existed before that, but it's essentially kind of like stock characters, like the hero and the villain and all of those different things. And so, yeah, these are archetypes of comedy, or like roles, essentially.
And it's good
right?
to point out that comedy is both the ha-ha type and just meaning a story that's not a tragedy.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot of these came from. And they have a lot of their roots in the Comedy dell'arte that was traveling storytellers in Europe used. But here's what I was talking about earlier. So let's start with a movie that is definitely not a comedy. Star Wars.
Yeah.
Right? Episode 4, A New Hope. New Hope, is that the first one? Yeah.
Yeah.
The first one made, right? 1977. No one would call it a comedy per se. It's not like a rom-com.
They usually call it space opera or sci-fi or something.
Well, and opera, right?
Sure.
It's almost like that space western feel to it, right?
Totally.
And so it's got a lot more drama to it. But if you go character by character in that show, you have strong archetypes. And one of my favorite things is every robot in the Star Wars universe uses these comedy archetypes.
That's really interesting, because I knew that the robots were, George Lucas said they were the comedic relief.
Sure.
Right? And that they were the two characters, Shakespearean
Yeah.
comedic relief characters in the thing. But I didn't realize every single droid is one of those.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
And that is one of the reasons why the droids are so, you can connect to them so well. So a good example is C-3PO.
Yeah.
Comedy archetype includes, I probably have to look through them all just to be sure, but he is often the damsel. Like, he needs help.
Yeah, that's
Save
true.
me,
It's true.
Save me,
Yeah.
right? He's often the damsel. He's definitely the know-it-all, right?
Okay.
There's a 1 in a billion chance that this is going to happen. And he also, well, those are good ones to start with.
Okay, yeah.
R2-D2 is often the, he's kind of the, they call it the trickster.
Oh.
Like, he's there and C-3PO's like, nothing can happen.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? And then he shows a video and he's like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
He's always...
Yeah, that's what people don't realize about R2-D2 is he has the best written lines in Star Wars, and you never hear what they are.
Yeah.
Like if you read the script, the context clues betray hilarious lines by R2-D2. If you're really listening, he just is beeping and everything. But like you were referencing when he makes the thing of Princess Leia on accident when Luke kind of cleans him out and he does the Princess Leia hologram. He's just like, what is that? And he goes, beep, beep, beep. And C-3PO goes, what do you mean, what is that? So literally, he's just being like, what's what? I don't know what you're talking about. As he's projecting.
It's a really great way to watch.
Really funny lines.
Good.
So let's go from there. So we have a space western, space opera that uses these archetypes, and as a result, we love the royal Princess Leia.
Yes.
We love the scoundrel, the lovable scoundrel, right, in
Han Solo.
Han Solo.
Yeah.
Luke does the whole hero's journey through the show, right? Well, so as I've been paying attention to these things, I started looking at internet videos and people not acting but being themselves. And one of the things that was most interesting to me is the people that felt most real to me become hybrids of comedy archetypes.
Interesting. You're talking about like personalities almost.
Yeah.
So like YouTube channels, TikTok channels.
And most of the time what it feels like is not that they have gone through and been like, well, I want to be a royal slob, because that sounds like a fun thing.
Yeah.
Right? What usually it is that they've actually tapped into a couple things. So for myself, one of the problems that I know I bring to the world is that I always try to be the know-it-all.
Okay.
Right? I want, if I'm going to talk about
he's
it.
pretty good at that.
That's the thing. We don't even question it.
Right.
We don't even question the fact
Actually,
that he knows
that's
it.
true.
You know what
I was trying to make a rude joke, but that's actually just real.
Because the comedic
Like,
know-it-all
I
is
don't
like they think they know it all,
Right.
but for us, we're like, well, Nate does.
It's like,
he just actually knows
yeah.
it all.
Well, but while I recognize that is something that I have lived my life trying to be, like if I was going to be honest, I know I don't know everything. In fact, most of the time, the reason I'm trying to research, the reason I read so many stupid books, and they're not stupid books, they're actually very good books. We may have to bring some of them up.
Why are
here.
you reading stupid books?
Yeah, I have read a couple stupid books, but for the most
Stupid,
part,
the book. Part 1,
pretty
2,
good.
and 3.
But the reason I go through all that is because I want to be able to, in any situation, be able to say, well, did you know that in 1983 that there was this ham that was, the prize ham of Georgia, and that's what caused Han Solo to be his character, right?
Hold on. Is this,
That's not
is this,
a real thing.
Oh, man.
For what it's worth.
I was so excited to learn.
That was
About
such
the
a good
prize
example.
ham
We
of
both were
Georgia.
like,
He knows what he's talking about.
Nate, tell us about the ham.
Did you think Georgia the state or the country? Because I thought the country.
Oh, that's an interesting.
I thought it was a mythological ham from Georgia the country, which has a very, very old mythological history. And I was like, I never read about this ham.
I think I thought the state, yeah.
I was envisioning the state.
I
but
feel like
appreciate-
ham in its processed form makes more sense for Georgia the state.
Yeah. I thought
Yeah.
you were trying to say George Lucas and you couldn't remember his last name. You're like,
Georgia
Anyway,
Georgia.
that was like so much for know-it-all.
And honestly, that's probably where Georgia came from. But
Speaking of George Lucas, what's cool about this and you bringing up archetypes of comedy is that one of my favorite things about Star Wars and the reason why I think that it was so successful, there were a lot of reasons, right? It hit the market at the right time.
sure.
It kind of revitalized even just like happy stories, because stories were really gritty and anti-heroes and stuff at the time because of the cultural things that were going on and the wonder and just childhood, just exploration and adventure that him and Steven Spielberg brought kind of really defined that age.
Right, and it caught that wave
A
right
lot of
as
reasons.
it was
a lot
crashing.
of reasons.
Yeah.
I think the main thing, though, is that George Lucas was a student. He knew Joseph Campbell and took classes from him. And George Lucas, as far as I have been able to study, was the very first person who intentionally told the hero's journey.
Yeah, if you don't connect those, Joseph Campbell is the one who, like, kind of analyzed, figured out, and I don't know how you would put it, but
Created the concept.
yeah,
the
he
hero's
kind of
journey.
solidified that whole concept and called it the hero's
Well,
journey.
he called it the monomyth,
or yeah,
but we refer to it as the hero's
But
journey.
yeah, he turned it into a thing, like a specific thing with a name, as opposed to just that kind of character arc that like could work. Or
Isn't it
you
funny
see
that all
aspects
of,
things.
all
you
of
know?
our different cultures have very
Yeah.
similar heroes and villains?
Right.
And that's the thing. What's crazy about that is humans for thousands and thousands of years had been doing it like intuitively.
Right.
They had just been intuitively telling this very human story, which is the hero's journey, that it's just like there's something really deep in our humanity because this story has honestly outlasted every single civilization. We've been telling it for thousands and thousands of years. And then Joseph Campbell realized it, and then George Lucas used that formula intentionally
As a
for the
formula,
very first time. And I think, personally, that's why it was so revolutionary and just blew everybody's minds because he took this, he knew the archetypes. He used those archetypes intentionally and created something for the first time ever, and that's incredible.
That's very cool.
And it worked really well. And for those of you who just started typing the comments below about how Joseph Campbell's ideas are controversial in some storytelling, we understand.
Yeah.
We understand. We are allowed to love him even if you don't.
But do leave the comments.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah, we do like
Please
those
do.
comments.
So
It's all about the discourse. And if we ever say anything that is like technically incorrect, we would love for you to just correct us.
Please.
Yes.
Because we don't have
As a know-it-all, I need that to happen.
and we don't have our references open currently. If we did, we would obviously give you the perfect facts, but we're just here talking from our own freaking brain case. So why did I say it that way?
I don't know.
I mean, it's a brain case.
Filing cabinet of the noodle.
Yes, indeed.
Also, why is it called a noodle? Isn't that so weird? You got a
I was
noodle in your
thinking
head?
about
Well,
just-
have you
Is it
looked
just
at
because
it?
the brain looks like a noodle? That's probably.
I
I
would
was talking to
assume
somebody about
so.
that the other day. Yeah.
Use your
Noodle. Do the noodle dance.
I was
time.
just thinking about the Taco Bell has a thing above their drive-through that says "Don't ring your bell on this," which is really clever. It's like
Yeah.
a height thing, but I'm like, people say that about like your head, like
being a bell.
ringing, like getting your bell rung. You
Yeah.
know, like woo. I'm like, that's weird.
So what's the
Is it
little
just
thing in
'cause,
a
like
bell
your
called?
ears? Because your ears are ringing when
Probably.
that happens. Like you get hit so hard.
The donger?
Yeah.
Yeah, but what is that called? What is the donger
No, I think
called?
it's the donger.
I'm pretty sure
if you
it's
know
the
the
donger.
name
Ding donger.
If you know the
ding
name of the
donger.
donger, put it in the comments.
Here's the deal. Whatever that
Put it in
thing
the
is,
comments.
and we'll look it up after this, I'm sure.
I think it's a hammer, maybe.
Hammer?
I
Because
like
I want
the
to start.
idea of a hammer,
I want to start calling the brain that.
Yeah.
It's just the hammer in
the
your brain.
hammer.
It's like I'm going to use the hammer.
Also, I just like,
kinda
even
cool.
if that's not what it is, I just want to call my brain the hammer.
The hammer.
That's good.
Yeah,
Mjolnir my brain.
I like it. I like it.
Mule noodle.
So,
Noodling here.
so coming back, one of the things that I would love, that I am going to push for on this, is I want us to go through at some point. It can be today,
Yeah.
or some other time, and figure out 2 or 3 of these that you think will define who you are on
Okay,
the show.
really interesting.
And the reason is,
Yeah, I was just about to say, like,
is I think people will connect with us more if we lean into them a little bit.
Okay. Because I was just getting, when that was happening right now, we were doing a tardigression.
Tardigression.
Right now, I was like, wow, we really are R2D2ing his C3PO right now. That's what's going on.
Yep,
He's
that's
just
true.
trying to like be C3PO, and we're like, oh yeah, dingy dongy, brainy weenie.
Noodle near. And peeking,
Totally
peeking
peaked.
Yeah.
the
Totally
mic
peaked
so
just
much.
now.
Sorry about your brain cases there.
Brain cases.
Didn't mean to ring your bell.
Sorry about your Mjolnir littles.
Yes.
Tartar
Yeah.
brains. But for real, and I was going to ask you, I don't know how much of like my content you've seen on TikTok or YouTube or the other things. I was going to ask you if just watching that stuff, because you accentuate different parts of yourself when you're a performer, and it's not that they're inauthentic, they're just a part of you that you're accentuating.
Right.
So like I was going to ask you if you could at this point find any of the archetypes comedically that apply to me, knowing those things, and I was just curious, I don't know if you've thought about it, but like what you would say.
Okay.
Actually, I would be interested content-wise, and just because you know both of us.
Yeah, totally.
I would be curious, and then we'll decide.
Yeah.
But if there's any that stand out clearly to you that you
I just am curious with your expertise, your
Yeah.
C50
Yeah.
on this, but also for context, when Nate was talking about classes at like this theater camp, we were both students there. That's where we started. We were just both little tiny theater kid students taking classes from Nate, and now we're actually to the point where we're kind of teaching and. He's raised us into these roles.
I'm to the point where I'm not teaching.
Yeah,
and
he's
you guys
directing,
are. Yeah.
And the theater camp is one of it is a part of DPAC, Discovering Potential Through Arts Creativity, which is the parent nonprofit, and Thunderfeather is one of its nurture groups. So in case that
It's good to make that note.
clarification.
So yeah, let's talk about you guys. So So let's start with the very first one on my list because Landon, you happen to be the person that I think of every time, and that is the animal. And specifically,
This is so good, though.
This is
Good.
an archetype
That's
where
good.
they act like an undomesticated
Bro,
animal.
Bro, here's the deal. Every time I write a story, Landon is a character in that story, no matter what. And it's always that sort of thing. It's just some
That's
kind of small, animalistic creature who's also the best friend of the main guy.
I
So,
don't have to be so small all the time. But
but he kind of does, though.
But the reason
Comparatively.
the interesting thing about that for you is it is an under the surface thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's always there, and it always has permission to come forward if appropriate. It feels like, but it's not something that you are in everyday life. I know a story of you suddenly erupting into in the middle of a meal onto the top of a table as a werewolf, I think it was.
Yep.
Yeah,
So-
as a werewolf.
I don't even know if I was there, but I feel like of course.
Like I can visualize it, and I
Totally.
wasn't there.
Also, have you noticed the thing? Like you can know when he turns into the animal. I don't know if you can do it right now towards the camera, but your eyes do this thing. It's like
Get
this.
the whites.
Like one of them twitches a little bit. Wait, do it one more time so we could get the close up.
well,
See if you
I
can
don't
do
think what I was actually that wasn't it.
it. But try to channel it and see if you can. Yep.
So
was
that's
totally
one
it.
that I'd probably call like your third one. Like maybe it isn't in your dominant one, but
Yeah.
it's definitely one that is there and definitely adds color ever so often.
Cool.
Which is actually
I'll take
really
that.
fun with your children now.
Yeah.
That's the perfect place for it to.
Quick story. So I was late to our starting here today, and I was going to mention to you guys the like technical stuff, and I would say also, just so you know, I was trying to get here fast because I left while my boys were howling for the first time. I was gonna.
He has
tell you
twins. He
guys
has
that
twins.
I have twin boys, and they were howling for the very first
Yeah.
time tonight, and I still was like, "All right, I gotta go."
That's like more for you. Knowing Landon, that's like more important
Yeah.
than first steps.
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
That
It was
makes
you
good.
kind of emotional,
It was
man.
good. Yeah.
It's kinda-
And I mean, I saw it, but I could have gotten more out of them, and I came here because we had to do this, and I was already 20 minutes late. So
Hey, but it's all right. It's good cause.
But-
Noble cause.
good. That was
Okay, so let's go to the next one that I think kind of applies to both of you more often than you're probably comfortable with, and that is the grown-up child.
Listen,
I think you underestimate
we-
how
yeah.
comfortable we are. With it.
I think actually, like knowing if you knew the amount of conversations Landon and I have talked about our core values, there's one. Mm-hmm. That's the core value.
Right.
Childhood wonder. Not getting emotional about it every time we talk about it, which we've never done. But yeah, wow.
But
Tell us about it,
it's
yeah.
a huge thing, and it's an adult who acts like a child. Now, in a strict comedy sense, it would be somebody who's emotionally immature, right?
Right.
But to some extent, that is part of what you guys embrace, right?
Yeah.
Is the idea that you don't have to just pretend you're an adult like the rest of humanity does.
Yeah.
Because we all know. We all have that kid inside who's scared,
Yep.
who gets excited, who
Poops his pants.
sometimes
Metaphorically.
metaphorically
poop.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
But I mean, and it's part of why I like hanging out with you guys, right? Like I hang out with a lot of people very often who are pretending to be adults very well.
Yeah.
Right? And we can get into other things that they are. So those are two for sure.
Okay.
I actually call the difference being adults or being grown-ups.
Grown-ups.
Because in my mind, as a kid, you see all the boring grown-up stuff, and they just like don't seem to care. They don't seem to have an imagination. It's like, oh, that's like grown-ups. Being an adult, like, is good.
Yeah.
Being a grown-up,
And most of the time, the insult isn't like be an adult; it's grow up. You
Yeah.
know, that's what people usually say when somebody's acting that way. And we've talked obviously a lot about this, and we could talk hours about this, and maybe we will in the future. But kind of the philosophy we've talked about as friends is that like that becoming an adult or truly growing up in the real authentic sense should be taking all of that wonder and imagination and beauty and enrapture and an enchantment with the world, and not losing it, not putting away, not saying this is silly, I need to be responsible, but combining it with the power and ability you have as an adult to finally do the stuff you always dreamed about as a kid instead of putting it away. Because so many people think, I'm done with that stage in my life, this is silly.
Right.
And it's out of fear that they think they can't live that way. But really, I think, and we both think, that probably all of us think that like adulthood is your time where you have the power to explore the things you always wanted to as a kid. And I think unfortunately most people don't figure that out until they're very old, near the end of their lives. You see old people and children acting very similar about how they approach life. I think there's a reason why.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of in that middle period when we're adjusting to the responsibilities and the disappointments and the negative things in the world that we kind of lose sight of that. And it takes us a long time to find it again. So
we have a lot of vain expectations of ourselves that.
Yeah, and I'd even say that that's one that I know isn't naturally a part of me, but that I try to embrace when I can.
I think also,
I think
just
you
so
do
you
a
know,
great job.
Yeah,
For sure.
Also, hilarious
Totally.
that like two things that you've mentioned so far, and it's both of them like, well, actually, it's like
Totally.
very good at Nate is very good at like seeing people.
Also, this might be a good time to say this. I have no kids. Landon has kids. Nate has grandkids. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Look at him.
True.
He's a grandpa. And he looks freaking good.
Well, I appreciate that.
I think about that a lot. Like I sometimes think like, what does Nate eat? You know what I mean? It's like so anyway, if you want to know,
There's a lot of water.
maybe we'll put it in the show notes.
He eats a lot of water.
Nate is a tardigrade.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah.
You just
I
at
feel
night
that
you
way.
just
Desiccate and then
Yeah.
rehydrate.
and then your
That's
wife
exactly
just
how
spritz
it
water on you in
feels.
the morning and you're like, ready.
I didn't age for 8 hours. It's
Yeah, this is perfect. I've gained an extra 8 hours every night for a long time.
That would
That'd do it.